Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to our podcast today. These podcasts are brought to you in part by our sponsors, who really truly are what make these podcasts possible every week. O'Fallon Nutrition is a company that I've worked with for over 15 years. They're independently owned and operated, located here in O'Fallon, Missouri, right off of Highway K and Mexico Road. I call this place the Whole Foods of St. Charles County, but even if you are not located on this side of the river, it is still worth the drive. I can remember working all the way down at Powerhouse and still sending people out to O'Fallon Nutrition for their supplements. They are more than a supplement company. You can get grass-fed beef, salad dressing, seasoning for your cooking, hair care products, makeup, deodorant, toothpaste, essential oils, and all the vitamins and minerals that you can think of. If you're looking for clean, whole food nutrition, as well as home care, house care, skincare products, O'Fallon Nutrition is your place. You can take a look at them at o'fallonnutrition.com, or if you'd like to have something shipped, if you're listening to me from outside of St. Louis, you can certainly have items shipped. I know they do free shipping if it's an order over $50, and the phone number is 636-240-5283. Again, it's o'fallonnutrition.com. As well as if preparing your food on a weekly basis is your primary excuse for why you're not able to stay on a good, clean eating program, which is something that I hear very regularly from my clients, I would ask you to please take the time to check out Pure Plates. It's pureplatesstl.com. They are a phenomenal place. We get our food from there during the week. They deliver to our Integrity location. They will deliver to your house. They also are just available for pickup. You can go to their Chesterfield location or their Kirkwood location and just pick up meals for the day, as well as just having them delivered right to your door. So if preparing your food is your main excuse for why you cannot stay on a healthy eating program, then I would suggest just stop by Pure Plates. Just try it. If you're trying to lower your blood pressure, you're trying to lower your cholesterol, you're trying to get your blood sugar down, try to do Pure Plates meals for a week and just see how different you feel. These are organic meals. They are gluten-free. If you need them to be, they can be dairy-free. They are soy-free. You're not taking any processed sugars or meat-curing agents or preservatives. They really, truly believe in nutrient-dense meals that are just whole food nutrition. And I've had my clients, or I've made recommendations for my clients for years at Pure Plates. It's pureplatesstl.com, or you can call them to ask questions at 636-778-3555. Again, remembering that they have a location in Chesterfield as well as in Kirkwood that you can just run by and pick up a meal today. Everyone always asks me where I get my meat from, and given that I really eat meat on a daily basis, typically beef primarily, my meat is very important to me. I have an autoimmune condition and I want grain-free, corn-free meat, and I just haven't found the confidence in stores in knowing that I'm getting 100% grass-fed, grass-finished beef. And I have searched and searched and searched for the right farm, and I have found the farm. It's fedfromthefarm.com, fed, F-E-D, from thefarm.com. These farmers are amazing. It's a family. They're here in Missouri, and they have the desire, just like I do, to see people well and to see people healthy, and they put a lot into what they do. It's such a wonderful family to support. They do offer 100% grass-finished, grass-fed, meaning that's it. A beef, and I get my ribeyes, I get my ground beef, my ground sirloin, I get my chuck roast. I mean, they basically have everything. They even have awesome jerky, but they also have eggs, they have chickens, and they have turkey. I'm planning on getting a turkey for Thanksgiving, and if you'd like lamb, they have that as well. But if you are in need of good quality grass-fed, grass-finished beef, or quality eggs, chicken, turkey, don't just settle for what you're getting at the local store. to go out on the internet and check out Fed from the Farm. That you can arrange a pickup or you can have it delivered to your home. And I can guarantee you're going to taste the difference. For me, my health actually depends on it. So I really thank God to have found such a great farmer. Fedfromthefarm.com. I hope it blesses you.
Welcome to Faith, Fuel, and Fitness, the Integrity Way, with your hosts, John and Debbie Morris from Integrity Training Systems.
Hey everybody, this is John and Debbie Morris with Integrity Training Systems on Real Talk 93.3. Excited to talk to you today about being a warrior. I'm looking at a warrior right across the table here. She's kind of a good-looking warrior. She's got it going on.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. So anyway, what it means to be a warrior. I like to start the show by explaining to you the definition of that. And a warrior is a brave or experienced soldier or fighter. And I think the ors are important. I say this every week because a lot of people will tell you that they're not brave. And then they'll also tell you they're not a soldier. But the thing is, if you're experienced and you've fought through anything, then you're an experienced fighter. And so you might realize, like, if you actually look back at your life, you're like, well, I've never fought through anything. Well, anything you've survived is fighting, and that's also experience. And so you get to call yourself a warrior. And what's the benefit of calling yourself a warrior? Well, that means that you're actually able to press into what life is presenting you with and combat it. And I always tell people, like, remember, at some time in your past, you said something was the most difficult thing that you've ever had happen to you, and you made it through that. So if you're sitting there right now thinking this is the most difficult situation I've ever been in, realize that as long as you warrior into that and you press in, at some point down the road, you're going to have that same conversation with yourself, and you're going to think, I remember when that was the hardest thing that I ever dealt with.
Totally. I think that actually is what keeps me going, is just feeling like somehow God will use this test, and not to sound cliche, but somehow I'll have a testimony from this test, and I'll be able to utilize it in blessing others and encouraging others and just showing other people that they can get through the same types of tests. And I mean, I don't know, we've gone through some really challenging times, and that's just, in my opinion, one of the biggest ways I've gotten through it is just thinking on the other side of this, like, where is the gain? Like, who will we help? How will we change lives? Like, what are we uncovering in this challenge and this difficulty that's going to allow us to just be even stronger and mightier and grow in our walk with the Lord, just all the things. And if it wasn't for those challenges, sure as heck wish that they weren't there. I really wish that they could, that we could avoid them in some way, shape, or form. But I mean, I look back at some of them and I just realized, like, if it wasn't for some of them, like, they molded me. They made me the person that I am today. I have the character that I have because of those challenges. I look at hard work differently. I look at my schedule differently. I look at my family differently. I appreciate my time differently, all because of all the sacrifices that I've made in my life and all the challenges that I've gone through. And one example is just simply health. Like, I personally do not take health for granted, and I watch people on a daily basis take their health for granted. They're willing to continue to pile toxin off of toxin off of toxin off of toxin into their body, no matter how many health circumstances they've had. They're given the knowledge that those toxins are furthering disease in their body, and yet they still continue to pile it on there. I live in such a way that I almost lost my life because I was so sick, and I just don't do it. I don't want it. I don't want to go back to that sickness. I don't want to go back to laying in a bed and not being able to walk downstairs alone. I don't want to go back to not being able to stand in church. I rebuke it. I refuse to go back to it. So I just honestly refuse to take that for granted. And then there are other struggles that we've had, beginning two businesses and having investors pull out and having to, take on loans and things that, made life so much more complicated. The most simplest things in life that you may take for granted, like a 40-hour paycheck and guaranteed weeks vacation and sick pay. I don't have any of those things anymore. They're all gone. And so when I am at a high note in finances or when I'm at a low note, I know that God's providing and that he's given us the provision the entire time. So I feel security in him, but I don't take it for granted that we can buy a refrigerator full of groceries every week, because there have been weeks in the very beginning where it was like, gosh, I don't think we should spend that amount of money. And we just lived off of the most littlest of things, or the free things that we got from sponsors or whatever, just to barely get by, but not taking those things for granted. There's a warrior mentality in that, because you've battled, you've fought, you've seen how hard life can get. And so you have to be willing to say, I see what I have and I will not take that for granted, and I'll continue to fight strong, even though I don't see the victory quite yet. Like, I don't see it in front of me quite yet.
Yeah, I also think that it's easy to look at another person and think the grass is always greener. We just recently went on a vacation, and I got to be honest with you, we had one day that we were dealing with some business stuff. I stayed in bed for half the day. It was tough. We were in literally our dream vacation, and I wasted a day because of what I had going on with my business. When you're a business owner, you don't necessarily get to leave everything behind where you come from. Now, I'm not looking for sympathy here, because what I'm trying to get across is sympathy is actually a terrible instructor. Empathy is the best instructor you will ever have. What does that mean? What that means is, if someone's been through something and they're giving you advice, listen. Now, it doesn't always mean it's going to perfectly apply to you, but you should listen and you should take that in, because here's the thing. Empathy comes from experience. Someone that empathizes with your plight, they've been there. Sympathy is not the same thing. Sympathy does one of two things. Sympathy is going to be that someone is, they're like, oh my gosh, I feel so bad for you. And then they might even separate themselves from me because they don't feel like dealing with it. Or they might even be lying, like, oh, that's terrible, and they don't really care. The other side of that is sometimes a sympathetic person will give you something. Like, you're hurting for money. Okay, you're hurting bad. And a sympathetic person might be like, oh, okay, well, here's $100. I hope that works out for you. Well, what happens if you're hurting for money and you don't have a place to live? You're going to burn through the $100 and you don't know what to do now. But an empathetic person is going to be like, I get it. I've been there. They may offer you $100, but they're also going to teach you how to invest it. They're going to teach you how to make another $100 because they know what it took for them to get to where they are, and they want to teach you the same thing. I mean, this is the whole principle business is based off of. Debbie just talked about how she almost died, and nutrition is what saved her life. So now what qualifies her the most as a nutrition coach isn't the 987 certifications she has. It's that she almost died, and she doesn't want to die. What qualifies me as an instructor and a personal trainer is not my certifications. Find a part in my body that's not broken. I'll tell you what it is. It's my 2 right toes on my right foot and my right knee. And that sounds funny, but I have broken every other joint, torn every other muscle, or some form of connective tissue in every other part of my body, including all the way up into my head. I had a brain bleed. I've had 14 concussions. I mean, I'm not saying all this because I want your sympathy. I'm telling you, this is what makes me a warrior. The things that you might even be sitting on that you think disqualify you from helping someone else are actually your greatest qualifications. I learned that from Ed Milet. He talks about his dad. His dad was an alcoholic. The guy that helped his dad stop being an alcoholic quit drinking alcohol 12 days before he helped Ed Milet's dad. This guy wasn't a reformed alcoholic that started a program 20 years later. He quit drinking 12 days before he helped Ed Milet's dad. Now, if that guy had said, I'm not qualified, Ed Milet's dad might have never gotten out of alcohol. So when I'm talking about warrioring, I'm talking about not only overcoming what you're dealing with and listening to people with empathy who are trying to assist you because they've been there, but I'm also talking about like, who can you help? Who could you be assisting?
Yes.
If someone else is struggling in their business and their $1 million is your $20, maybe you can give them $20. You know, and I'm not talking about just giving the money away. Teach them what to do with that. Like, okay, been there, done that. Here's this. Now let me help you figure it out.
Right.
You know, or you've got an injury, your back's hurting you. I heard a guy and he talks all the time about like the day you quit learning is the day that you quit being successful. And he was talking in a podcast about pain, how much pain he was in. And he said, we're going to come back to this. Go ahead, Deb.
For more information on what we do at Integrity Training Systems, take a look at integritytrainingsystems.com or give us a call at 636-299-2208. For gluten-free, dairy-free baked goods delivered to your door from my personal bakery, take a look at sophiesbakery.com. And for 100% grass-fed beef, the only meat that the Morris family will eat, take a look at fedfromthefarm.com.
Welcome back, everybody. This is John and Debbie Morris with Integrity Training Systems on Real Talk 93.3. Right before the end there, I had to let Debbie get that last bit out. I started to go into a topic that I'm pretty passionate about, and that's helping other people and being willing to be helped. Sometimes humility is the hardest thing to swallow. Now, there's a difference between being humble and not having self-worth. Okay, so I'm not telling you to walk around thinking you're not worthy of something, but what I am telling you is sometimes humility is actually the remedy. That's the medicine. And so I started to talk about a podcast I was listening to, and I'm not going to say the person's name in reference to this because I actually think they're a phenomenal podcaster and I love everything they have to say. They're a very positive person, but they were talking about some pain that they were dealing with in their back. And they were like, you know, I'm dealing with this back pain and I had to go through this. And he goes, now, before you all start sending me your remedies of trying this and trying that, just know I've already tried everything. So just save yourself the effort. Don't email me. Don't text me. I've tried it. And then he moves on. Well, this is someone that talks about like never giving up and always trying and always moving forward and what's the next opportunity. And I'm just going to say, like, if you're in that much pain, like if your back really hurts you as much as my back hurts me, you're going to be willing to listen to the same solutions over and over and over to find the right one. Because if you're getting empathetic solutions, if you have someone that's coming to you and saying like, hey, I tried this. You know, I was talking to a lady today about back pain, and she herself has had back pain. She actually has the same fusion and plates and screws that they want to put in me. And so she said, hey, I have this cream, and every other cream I've ever used, I've rubbed on my back. I've tried it. It just doesn't work. This is a holistic one. There's not bad ingredients in it, but I'm just telling you, when I put it on my back, it actually makes my back feel better. Now, listen, I have tried a lot of creams, and I'm like, that's an external attempt to fix an internal issue. But you know what? This is someone who's been through the same thing as me and arguably worse than me, and she's saying that it worked for her. So I'm going to try the cream. What does all that mean? What that means is if you're going through something right now and you're just feeling bad about yourself and just kind of like running through the same loop and the same revolution, like you might actually be missing the correction. And the final point I want to make, Deb, I want to have you talk a little bit about this, is when you look at Paul in Philippians, he actually prays multiple times for his situation to go away, like to get better. He asks God, I think it's 3 times. He says, can you make this go away? Like, can you make this stop? Well, God doesn't get annoyed about that. God actually mentions back and says like, hey, I'm actually teaching you how to be strong enough to do this. And what you're going through is actually going to create what you're capable of doing. And so here's what here's the process. Here's how you get through that. And what's fascinating about that is that process is actually what makes you strong enough to take on what it is that you need to be taking on. But the second part of that is Paul didn't complain about it. So if you're walking around complaining about what you think you need to do to get better instead of just implementing it, you're kind of putting that on yourself. You're kind of setting yourself up for that failure. And, there's another guy. What is Byron's full name? Do you know Byron?
I'd have to look.
We'll come back to that. But Byron, he's a motivational speaker. He's got his head together on things from the Bible as well.
Myron Golden. You should look him up. He's amazing. I've been listening to him quite a bit. Obviously not enough to remember his name, but he's awesome.
Close. And yeah, it was really close. But one of the things that he says is a lot of times we're asking God to open doors that we haven't even closed the other doors that we need closed to open. And if he opened that door, we would actually fail with what's behind it. Right. We are asking God to take us to a place that we're not capable of being in. So it's not that he's saying no, but he's saying you're not ready. And so when you're asking for something, you're asking for a load that's bigger than what you're capable of taking on, then you're not going to get that. You come to me and you tell me you want a 500-pound bench press and you can only bench 135. I'm not going to put you under 500. You're going to die. So we're going to have to work for that. You're going to have to work through the struggle to get that 500 you're looking for.
Absolutely. I think in any health endeavor, there has to be a point where you recognize that this isn't meant for ease. Like I can't expect to go through this process of eliminating weight, changing my blood pressure, changing my blood sugar, and not expect to have difficulty or not expect it to be challenging or to not expect there to be some limitations or some restriction or just some areas where you're going to, feel less and less satisfied. I think we're just such a self-satisfying society that we think, okay, even though I have diabetes, even though I have high blood pressure, even though I need to lose 50 pounds, I still need to be able to have my dark chocolate every day. I still need to be able to have my wine every day. I still need to be able to have my bread every day. And we've created this situation, even doctors, I listen to doctors tell people things like this, created this situation where we have this list of unrealistic expectations. And I grew up in a society where I was surrounded by healthy bodybuilders, and they truly ate clean and worked out hard and went to a full-time job, and they were healthy. They represented health, but people are just so quick to think like, hey, I want to be able to have my cake and eat it too. I want to lose that 50 pounds, but I still want to be able to eat cake.
So that's the problem, right?
I want to not have diabetes, but I want to still be able to eat my cake.
It's funny because people will come in and they'll be like, I've heard people say this, well, Debbie's tough, because she doesn't want me to have cake. But listen, you came in and said you want to lose 50 pounds and you have 12 weeks to do it. The unrealistic... Or that
you have heart disease or that you have... That you're on insulin.
Yeah, the unrealistic expectation is you're like, I want to come off insulin, but I don't want to quit eating sugar every day. That's unrealistic. So it might seem unrealistic that she's telling you not to have cake, like, oh, there's no way I'm going the rest of my life without cake. Well, then the unrealistic expectation is you coming off insulin. Like, that's actually the unrealistic. What Debbie's telling you is how. We just talked about this, empathy. How does Debbie not die every day? She doesn't eat garbage. Of course she misses garbage. I mean, who doesn't? I remember a time back when I was allowing myself to once a week eat something that was garbage, and I have in years not done that. But I was doing that, and I was eating pizza, and that was like my thing, my go-to thing every week. I'm like, getting my pizza on Monday. I was literally telling people not to do that, and I was doing that. And I remember one day I was sitting there, and I was eating it, and I was loving it. And I remember my wife, Debbie, saying, man, that smells good. And I had this moment. I'm like, I am an a-hole. Of course my wife wants this pizza. I have been eating it in front of her every week for like 6 months. She used to eat pizza. Of course she misses this. She doesn't eat it because she doesn't want it. She eats it because she shouldn't. And I quit doing it. That was actually the catalyst. I was like, if she's not doing it, I'm not doing it because it's for her health. And I'm not going to put that in front of her.
And your health changed dramatically when you stopped doing that. Stop having gluten, stop having dairy on a regular basis. It really made a big difference. For more information on what we do at Integrity, take a look at integritytrainingsystems.com or give us a call at 636-299-2208 for gluten-free, dairy-free baked goods delivered to you from my personal bakery. Take a look at sophiesbakery.com. And for 100% grass-fed beef, the only meat that the Morris family will eat, take a look at fedfromthefarm.com.
Welcome back, everybody. This is John and Debbie Morris with Integrity Training Systems on Real Talk 93.3. Getting pretty into this idea of being a warrior today, and this idea of Debbie pointing at me.
No, I just leaving that last segment. I just wanted to real quickly say that
I don't know what that.
It really was game changing.
We need to learn each other's signals. I'm not sure what that was.
It was really game changing when you cut the pizza out.
Oh yeah,
because you were actually having a chronic respiratory infection.
Right.
Basically every 2 to 3 months.
And so check this out. I actually have really weak lungs. I've had weak lungs my whole life. My mom was actually a very successful employee when I was a baby. And she had to quit her job because they would have to take care of my health. And one of the things that would happen is I'd stop breathing because my lungs wouldn't work well as a baby. It's terrifying. And then I had to do an inhaler every day. And then I had to do nebulizer breathing treatments with it. If you're not familiar with that, as a kid, sucked. And I didn't like them and I didn't want to do them, And so it's I've had weak lungs my whole life. Well, guess what? I'm having this pizza every week. I'm otherwise pretty healthy. You talk about the 90-10 that everybody claims that they have. I was, I guess, kind of close to that. But, the problem was that this was making my lungs sick. But guess what I did? I said it's because I have weak lungs. I wrote it off. I have weak lungs. And then I would be crabby and kind of foggy. Well, that's because I've had 14 concussions.
I mean, it was just wild. It was you went 8 months without having a respiratory infection. Right. And it had been years that you were having those literally every 2 to 3 months. And this is not a joke. He would take prednisone and an antibiotic no less than 3 times a year.
Yep.
Now, there have been years where he had taken it 4 times a year.
And that's talking about something that I was having once a week. So, if you're bringing this stuff in every day, every other day, something little that you just have to have, or I have to enjoy life. I get to have my Saturdays and Sundays off. Well, you know what sucks is a week of a respiratory infection followed by the 2 weeks after that are recovery.
And I just want to say you found other options.
Right.
It wasn't like with cake. I mean, okay, it's your birthday. Okay, let's make a cake from almond flour. Let's create, something that you use coconut oil with. Let's use applesauce. Let's use stevia. Let's use protein powder. There's so many things that we could use that you actually will not stay on insulin, but still get to have cake.
Yeah.
But in John's case, we found almond flour pizza crust. We get the Daiya cheese. We do the Rao's sauce. I just did a reel on this the other day, and then we get the uncured, no sugar added turkey pepperoni.
Right.
And he does not feel sick after this.
And here's the thing. I'm not going to do that every day because it is higher calorie than what I bring in. So again, we're not talking about something that's I can prepare that every day. We're still talking about something that you get to have and be that's my deal for the
Sunday.
Month. That's what I get to have for my birthday. That's what I get to do once a week if that's what you need to do. So it's the getting to live that everybody says, well, I need to be able to live a little bit. It's guys, that actually should happen because you don't have a respiratory infection. If you're thinking about me having that let's say 4 times a year, that's 4 weeks. There's always 2 weeks after that I don't feel good.
Right.
Okay. So that's 8 weeks. That's 12 weeks out of my year. That's 3 months. There's only 12 months in a year. I deserve to feel well more than 9 months a year.
Also,
that's what you deserve.
Just think about, the work that was missed from that.
Right.
Financially, just how do people, how well can you support yourself when you have to miss that much work,
right.
And then here's another thing. It doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that you don't get to enjoy life, but mentally, this is that warrior mentality. John has to look at it like, I don't want to feel sick for the rest of my life. I don't want to have an infection 4 times a year. I don't want to have to miss work. I don't want to miss the finances. I don't want to walk around feeling like my lungs are inflamed on a regular basis. I don't want to be sick on a regular basis. So I have to change my mindset. The mindset can't be, I don't get to have this. I miss this. I wish I could have this. The mindset is, I don't get to have a respiratory infection 4 times a year. I get to feel good, exercise. I get the finances, the extra finances from being able to, not miss them. I get so many things from this. But if you're constantly focused on what you don't get, what you don't have, all that you are missing, then it really is you're going to stay low. You're always going to be in this kind of negative spot.
I have never met somebody who's been healthy, got unhealthy, and then got healthy who says, man, I really missed that unhealthy phase.
Right.
I've never met them. Like now maybe they might talk about, I really did enjoy my ice cream in there, but they're not going to talk about missing how crappy they felt. Now, I have met
so many people, though, have never really cleared it, though.
I have met plenty of people that have gone the other direction. They've been unhealthy, they've gotten healthy, and then they've gotten unhealthy. And they don't say, I'm so glad I'm unhealthy again. What they do is say, I took my health for granted.
Right.
I wish I would have never slipped. I wish I never would have struggled. And guess what? Then they struggle to get back to being healthy because now they're perpetuating in their mind that I don't know if I can do it again, or now I really do like this, or I'm addicted to this. And so they aren't walking around saying like, oh, well, I'm so glad I came back to this lifestyle. It's the polar opposite of what we just said. So it becomes easy when you're in the like feel good phase to do it. And then when you stay there for a little while, it's easy to be like, well, maybe I'll let this come back in. Well, maybe I'll let this come back in. And it's one little thing here and there. And then next thing you know, you're right back where you were. So the thing is, when you're doing well, and you hear this in business a lot, motivational speakers and high-level entrepreneurs say this. They say when things are going well, that's when you should be working your hardest. And that's the polar opposite of what everybody thinks. So like, oh, things aren't going well. I got to press and I got to work hard. And now things are great. I'm going to stay here. No, that's the polar opposite. You should be working your hardest when things are going well. That way, when things don't go well, you're covered. And so when you're healthy, that's the last time you should be thinking, I'm going to have some more chocolate. I'm going to have some wine because I've established and I've accomplished all this. No, that's a real good way to fall really fast. And then all of a sudden it's like a landslide and you're just back. You're back to where you started. You've got the migraines. You're back on medication. You feel fatigued all of the time. Like all of the things that you came in and said you didn't want. And it's funny because it's not funny, but I have this conversation with clients all the time and they'll be like, yeah, I just don't know. I just don't know if I still feel better or like if I'm in a good spot. And I'm like, you need to go home and you need to get the photo of the first time you came in and you saw me with what you looked like. And then I'm going to walk you through right now, if you don't remember, why you came and started
But also, if someone is intermingling every week or a couple times a week,
then you never even get to be there.
Toxic food, then you probably really are not feeling as good as what you used to feel. Because if you went on an anti-inflammatory diet and you stuck with it for 120 days and you really stayed stuck with it, that's the best you've probably ever felt in your entire life other than the first 2 weeks.
Another thing with food that's so fascinating is it's such an addiction. And so many people say it's not, but here comes the empathy for you. As someone who's been addicted to painkillers, addicted to Xanax, addicted to alcohol, and addicted to food, the only thing my brain loops on potentially going back to is food. And so here's the thing is it's not only a psychological, but it is actually a physiological addiction. So what happens is you go 7 days, you go 14 days, you're like, man, I'm doing so good. I'm going to bring this back in. Well, guess what? You just reset the addiction. And so then you might spend the next 7 to 10 days, maybe even 14, detoxing what you put in your body. Well, yeah, you don't feel better because what's happening is You're going back to feeling the way you felt because you brought in what you used to bring in, but then you're going to spend 7 to 10 days detoxing. Your chances of feeling good over the next month aren't there. But what's funny is people blame the program. Like, oh, well, it must not be working for me. I don't feel great. No, it's just like any other addiction. When you first switch it, there is a process of detoxification that's going to probably make you not feel great before you do start to feel better. And every time you bring that garbage back in, you reset the time clock on that.
You just do. I mean, the reality is that, when you have that off meal over the weekend, a drink, bread, pasta, cereal, crackers, cookies, cheese, cake, when you have that, for whatever reason, it's fine. You've made the decision to have it. I'm not giving you a hard time. I'm just saying when you've decided to have that on Saturday, if you have a healthy immune system, a truly healthy immune system, you're going to be working that out of your system until about Tuesday. You're going to be removing toxins, resetting your immune system. You're going to be lowering your histamine levels. If you do not have a very healthy immune system, if you have an autoimmune disease, that could be 2 weeks. It could be 2 months that you could be working just that one weekend's worth of items out of your body. Now, praise God, if you do have a healthy immune system and your body's willing to, allow you to drop the water weight, your lymph system is not being challenged by it, your adrenals are not being depleted by it. All in all, your blood sugar is staying okay and your blood pressure is staying okay. That's awesome.
Yeah, and before you get excited, that is a very small percentage.
Very small percentage. But the reality of it is you'll never really be able to test how good you truly feel if you're still bringing toxins into your body. If you start finding alternative ways to make that pizza, alternative ways to make the muffin, to make the cookie, to even make the crackers. If you're finding those alternative ways, then you can likely say, I do still feel really good. Yes, I notice when I have that pizza, and even though it's an alternatively made pizza, I do still kind of wake up the next day a little bit foggier, a little bit more tired, because it's a lot more ingredients. It's a lot more things than what I'm used to having. But I recover literally by the end of that day. I recover by the very next day. Great. No problem. Keep having it. I think it's definitely worth it. But if it's taking you multiple days to recover, if it's taking you a week to recover, if it's taking your weight 2 weeks to go down, that's inflammation. That isn't body fat. And that's your body's way of reacting to what you're having. And there's just disease in that. There's just long term, there's disease in that.
So when you say you deserve to live a little bit, or you have to live a little bit,
you actually are not living a little bit.
That's the life you actually deserve.
You're shortening
you just have
your
your mind. You just have your mind mixed up on it, and there's a lot of psychology in that. There's a lot of spirituality in that. But the short version is, you aren't wrong. You do deserve to live, but you're flip flopped on what that means. You think it means going out and having a drink. We think it means feeling good for the rest of your life, short of obviously things that can still pop up. I'm not promising you'll never have a cold again. But what I am telling you is that your life will dramatically change. Your energy will change. The way you look at life will change. Positivity is set in. If you're a negative person, I challenge you to figure out why. If things going around you aren't that bad, are you causing the negativity with what you're bringing in and actually messing up your neurology? It's possible.
Absolutely. For more information about what we do at Integrity Training Systems, take a look at integritytrainingsystems.com or give us a call at 636-299-2208. For gluten-free, dairy-free baked goods delivered to your door, take a look at sophiesbakery.com. And for 100% grass-fed beef, the only meat that the Morris family will eat, take a look at fedfromthefarm.com.
Welcome back, everybody. This is John and Debbie Morris with Integrity Training Systems on Real Talk 93.3. We've been talking a lot on the show today, actually, about just deserving to have a good life and, food and how much of an effect that has. I always joke that in my line of work, Debbie and I own a business together, obviously Integrity Training Systems, and I teach people how to correct their body structure, how to get their, muscles aligned, how to make sure that they don't have any misalignments that are creating problems with headaches or potential injuries or recovering from injuries, strengthening the body, correcting posture. And sometimes that even involves internal issues. Like you have acid reflux and you think it's a food thing, but it's actually because you have an intestinal compression because your hips are rotated. And I hope you learn that. All of that sounds really cool, but my job's worth about 10% of what Debbie's is. And so I say that humbly because if you do what I have you do, I can make you structurally better. But as far as actually feeling better, that starts from the inside out. And so what Debbie teaches people is not only how to eat, like that's the simple explanation, but she actually goes into you on a cellular level and figures out what it's going to take for you as an individual, which is different from everybody else, to feel better. Now, there might be general principles. You might see me having every client that I have do a lat pull down because I believe in the lat pull down. But the way we do it might be different. Debbie might have you eating ground turkey, and you're like, oh my gosh, everybody eats ground turkey. Why do we all only get ground turkey? But that's one aspect, and the way you cook it and what you put it with and when you eat it might be different. All of that comes into play in making yourself feel well. And so the thing about food is, when you look at food in the Bible, it's pretty fascinating because food is actually required for sustenance. And it's talked about multiple times throughout the Bible. And then it talks about fellowship in food. And if you look in the Bible, most of the things that it talks about is actually enjoying the fellowship during eating. It's not necessarily like, oh man, this pizza tastes so good. But at the same time, it's not necessarily telling you that you should have bland food either. And so what I mean by that is when you have someone like Debbie that teaches you how to make things taste good, that are clean, that's actually the route to success. Because what happens is so many people think to be healthy, they actually have to eat plain chicken and green beans 7 times a day, 7 days a week. And that is not sustainable. You're not going to do that because it's so extreme. And so what usually happens is people will do that for 12 weeks until a wedding or whatever it is, and they might actually feel better because that's probably better than Doritos and fast food. So they might actually feel better, but it's not sustainable because the second they hit that event, the second that's over, it's, oh man, like I can't wait to get back to XYZ that I like to eat, whatever it may be. So learning how to actually make things that taste good and are healthy is a way to create a sustainable lifestyle, which is what we teach. And Myron says this. I mentioned him in an earlier part of the segment, about how he says, food is Satan's secret weapon, and it's been killing people for thousands of years at a far higher rate than anything else, cancer, car wrecks, whatever, anything else ever. It kills at a higher rate because it's socially acceptable, first off. And second off, there's so much garbage in it now from a financial revolution perspective that you're not even really eating real food that much anymore. But when you take that back to the Bible, if you're looking for sustenance, when you put something in your body, what John Morris says is, what are you feeding? So are you feeding your spirit? Like, is it to become closer to God? Are you feeding the physiological requirement of sustenance? Is that what's going to give you energy and make you well? Or are you feeding something you want? Now, there can be a crossover between these three things. We just talked about something for sustenance that might taste good. We were even on break. Debbie was talking about the way she's making her turkey now, and she's like, oh, it's so good, right? So there can be blend. But I assure you, if what you're bringing in is just because you want it, and just for flavor, you are feeding your flesh. Absolutely. That is all you're feeding. And if that's all you're feeding, that's a problem. And you can track that 100% to health issues. And I will stand that ground till the day I die. Anything you are eating just because you want it, just because of flavor, and it doesn't actually have sustainable sustenance value, it is your flesh and it is killing you. On some level, you're not benefiting from it.
In my career, I've been doing what I do for 25 years, okay? And in my career, I always had a dream of being able to show people that they could cook healthy food and it could actually taste good. So I have 6 cookbooks, okay? Not because I'm over here, breaking the bank. I have so much money because I sold all these cookbooks. No, because when I meet with a person, I give them a free cookbook every time I meet with them, and I want them to have other options. I just want people to understand you can make healthy food taste good. Then my other dream has always been to be able to cook and show the person what I'm doing. So I travel all over town. I do not make money off of these. Yes, I get paid to do them, but by the time I buy the food, by the time I bring all the hot plates in, all the ovens in, all the things that I'm going to use, it is exhausting, and I am making no money off of it whatsoever. I'm doing it because it's literally like a servant role. I want the people in that group to see how good this food tastes. I want to pass it out, and I want everyone in the group to be like, oh my gosh, there's no way that was cauliflower. I want them to be shocked by it, right?
And it makes it tangible, because that's one thing that people say is like, well, I don't even know how to cook. I'm not going to be able to do that.
I want to show you that you can.
Once you've seen it, once you've seen it, you're kind of like,
so my cookbook is one thing, right? But then this video where you're watching me, and all I did was open it and dump it, and then dump this in there. And it's not this huge ordeal. So I always had this dream of being able to do that. Why travel around and do it? Well, I did a 22-week master's class for 8 years where I taught people how to cook for an hour. And then I taught people nutrition the second hour. It was 2 hours long. I did it for 8 years. I finally had someone take all of those recordings and turn it into a program. You can buy that. You can buy 23 hours worth of cooking instruction and 23 hours worth of nutrition instruction. There's methods out there. The other thing we do is an 8-week challenge. We start one April the 7th, and it is an amazing opportunity. I actually cook for the group every week. Last week, what did I make? I made roasted carrots for everybody.
Yeah, because I chopped them.
Yes, and I made baked apples, cinnamon baked apples. Like, we cook so that they can eat these foods and go, gosh, I didn't know it could taste that good. The first hour, everybody comes and they work out for an hour. The second hour, they learn nutrition from me for an hour.
When you did the baked apples, it was neat because there was a guy that was like, apple pie is literally my Achilles heel, and this tastes good enough to replace that.
With crunchy walnuts that we made cinnamon, sugar. We put cinnamon and stevia on them. And so my point in all this is not to try to sell you cookbooks or to try to sell you an online program. We have them. We have the 8-week challenge. It's to try to show you that I have served God through this business and this ministry that we've created. And the entire time I've done it, because I truly believe with my whole heart that if you taste how good this food tastes, you'll understand that you don't have to go to the toxic food. You'll understand you don't feel bad after you eat it, and you don't need all of that awful food that is just tearing you down, breaking you down, and making you feel weak. And it's really clouding you, and you're not serving that godly purpose as strongly as you really could be. You're really not, because you're fogged up, you're bogged down by all that bad food.
Yeah, I just think that so many times people don't actually, it's like they give up before they even try. And I mean, I'll give you a quick example of this. This past weekend, while we were on vacation, I mean, I don't know if this is kind of a big deal, grilled for the first time in my life.
Ooh, so good.
Which, as a 40-year-old man, I know sounds ridiculous, but if you listened earlier in the show, I was talking about how bad my lungs were, so I was never able to be outside when my dad grilled. I never grew up learning how to grill. So I taught myself how to grill this past weekend literally through YouTube. I mean, I watched YouTube videos, and I went outside and I was setting timers, and I kept coming in, and Debbie's looking at me, and like when I had the fire roaring, she's like, do you think that's okay? I'm like, I don't know, and then I'm like watching, like, okay, when do I do it? Oh, when the coals are more white than they are right now. And then like, what do I open when I do this? Guys, I did it off of YouTube and Google. I was Googling, how long should a hamburger be on the grill? How long should chicken be on the grill to be okay? And I learned how to do that. So it's out there. Debbie has cookbooks. We have videos. It's out there. Don't give up before you start. there's a lot of information on the internet.
100%. And we're here to help. For more information on what we do at Integrity, take a look at integritytrainingsystems.com or give us a call at 636-299-2208. For gluten-free, dairy-free baked goods delivered to your door from my personal bakery, take a look at sophiesbakery.com. And for 100% grass-fed beef, the only meat that the Morris family will eat, take a look at fedfromthefarm.com. Thank you for listening, and God bless.